And welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. It's Mitch Pinnell alongside Mitchell Balla here to give you the latest of what's going on in the sporting world. Mitch, happy No Shave November.
Happy No Shave November. And some people are probably looking at me right now saying, Mitch, you shaved. On October 31st, I did.
Sure.
I have not shaved in the first 3 days of November now.
I don't like what the results might be coming here in the next couple of weeks because I have few follicles on my face, and the ones I do have are so spaced out that it's going to look patchy. It's not going to look great. It's I don't know what's going to become of it. But I've seen you rock multiple styles in the past.
Yeah, you know, I tried it one time. I don't think I'll ever do it again. A goatee, like my dad. I think it's going to wait till I'm at least 40. Goatee. But I did take a poll the other day. Movember one, which is mustache only for the entire month of November.
Okay.
Still undecided what I want to do. All I know is that this right here, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I despise it. I feel like sandpaper on my face right now. And like for a guy who, whenever he's thinking, is deep in thought, is usually right here. I feel lost because there's nothing for me to grab or like touch right now when I'm thinking. It's just like, this is very odd rubbing my face. So, but happy No Shave November or Movember out there to anybody participating this month.
Absolutely. Those who
except Kevin Stefanski.
We're going to get into that and a number of topics here on the show today. I want to thank you all for listening and or watching. If you're watching here on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I had a period where I forgot a couple of Spotify and Apple centric uploads, but we got them on now. You can also find us on BigTimeSportsOhio.com. You can find our latest schedule there. We'll mention the two games that we have this week, and we'll also go ahead and get into other games in the area. That's the first topic. We'll start off with that. We have two games tonight on the docket, but before we get into those, I want to talk about one of the games that's coming up in Week 12 of the high school football season, playoff week number 2. The game that a lot of people are focusing in on is a matchup between two rivals, Federal League rivals that played a couple of weeks ago and are now facing off for the second time this season. Greene versus Hoover. This is a game in which I'm very curious to see what's going to become of it, mainly because this is a very different game from what we saw a few weeks ago between the Vikings and the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs were not with Carson Dearland just a couple weeks ago due to injury against Hoover, and I believe that was it. Greene did not have Semino Manson at quarterback, but now Manson was in the game last week for his team, and Dearland eventually returned in the end of the regular season. So both players are expected for tonight's contest. Yep. I don't know what that's going to make between these two teams because, remind me, who was it that won the previous matchup between the Bulldogs and the Vikings? I believe it was Greene. It was Greene,
because
yes.
Greene's 8-3 right now. They lost to McKinley, they lost to Jackson, and I believe their other loss was at a conference.
Yes, 41-34 was the Week 9 matchup. The Bulldogs won over the Vikings. The Bulldogs won their playoff opener 44-14 over 14 seed Columbus St. Charles. Hoover went to Columbus last week, beat a good DeSales team 23-21 on Paul Koskovich's 22-yard field goal as time expired. So, you know, I think going into this, it looks as if Greene is a considerable favorite, but are there any certain factors that, from what you saw a couple weeks ago, that could lead Hoover into potentially pulling off an upset here tonight?
The been there, done that factor. Carson Dearland's been here before. He's a senior, and Mitch, I think back when the season started, we talked about the favorites in the Fed. I said I liked McKinley, and I liked Hoover, because Dearland, in my opinion, at the time coming into the season, was going to be the best quarterback in the Fed. It has not been the season Hoover won it at 6-5. It doesn't matter, though, right? Last week, they both went 1-0. Now this week, they're 0-0 again. It's win or go home time. If you are going to be on the road, you're going to lean on your senior quarterback that has, you know, offers and looking to play at the next level. I think this is going to be a great game. It was 41-34 the first time. That's a one-score game. I think you're in store for the same thing tonight. I do like Greene, just how they're playing right now. Semino Manson did come into the game last week.
Right.
He did not start.
Yes.
It is unsure if he is starting tonight or not. Now, there's two sides to that, I think. One, Hoover hasn't seen him this year. There's film on him, obviously, up until, week 5 or 6 when he got hurt, I believe, against McKinley. And there's film on him, you know, probably from other games in the past.
Sure.
Do you ride with the hot hand right now at quarterback who's come in and really helped Greene, or do you turn back to Semino Manson? Or do you go with the 2-quarterback system? That can get hairy at times because you want to ride the hot hand, but if you're bringing guys in every other drive, now last year for Lake, it worked. Last year it was always Butler, Jarvis. It didn't matter. This is a little different. I think Green has to be semi-careful about the move they make here, though, because you don't want to disrupt the offense. The offense, Mitch, going back to week 10 against Lake, in which they dominated the Lake Blue Streaks. The first time all year we've seen somebody dominate Lake. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. I think I like Green here still, but I will not be shocked whatsoever if Hoover does pull off the upset. I don't really think it's an upset in terms of the seeding. It's an upset.
3 versus 11.
But they're familiar teams. They're separated. They're right next to each other in the counties or in the
right.
You know what I mean? Like I think it's gonna be a fun one. I really do. I'm gonna take the home team, right? But I won't be shocked if Hoover wins. I think if Green wins, it's gonna be really entertaining. It looks like the winner of this game, I believe, on the other side of that bracket, it's 2 Columbus schools. So if you're cutting down the distance, a lot of people are already talking. It looks like the game could be at Mansfield, which is an hour for both schools.
Yeah.
Which Green's familiar there. They beat Massillon there just 2 years ago. We'll see. I think this has a chance to be a very entertaining game and possibly one of the best games in Stark County tonight.
Green, for the last 6 weeks, has relied on sophomore Tyson Hunka for their quarterbacking since Manson broke his collarbone in week 5. In that span, he's thrown for 572 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. You know, they could go to a 2-quarterback system tonight because Mark Easton, he did not confirm a quarterback for Friday's game earlier in the week, and he said that, you know, maybe they could operate in a 2-man system. That wouldn't necessarily be bad if they can have consistent play from both quarterbacks. We kind of saw that last week when we were in Hartville for the Lake Perry game. Now, Lake's been kind of operating that all season because they don't throw the ball as much. Green's a little more susceptible to throwing, and, you know, I think they also have some good running game as well.
Yeah, and also with Lake, I mean, this is now for 2 straight years we've seen this. That's something that the Lake offense is used to, where for Green, you've played 2 quarterbacks this year, but it has not been every other drive or, you know, depending on what it is every game. You know what I mean? Like, you had no choice but to put another quarterback because Samino Manson broke his collarbone. Like, you had no choice there. But that's where it gets tricky, I think, because Lake has done this now for 2 full years. The offensive line knows what it is. Like, you know when a certain quarterback's in, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. If you need to pass block a little more in case the quarterback wants to use his legs. If Green can get the running game going, I don't think it matters who's quarterbacking Green tonight. As long as they're not turning the ball over. If Green gets the running game going, which they got going against Lake, they ran 12 straight plays, of which people have said were the same exact play. And Lake couldn't stop it. They said, hey, here's our best running back. Here's our best guard play on the offensive line. We're going to run behind him. Stop it. And Lake couldn't. And listen, Green was up here to start the year. They dipped a little, especially after that loss to McKinley, and that's the game Manson got hurt. That was a game they were blitzing McKinley early on, then blew it in the second half, which you see it all the time. When you lose a teammate to an injury, it hurts you. When you lose a starting quarterback, that really hurts you because you're seeing it with the Browns right now. Look back to Indianapolis, right? PJ Walker got no first-team reps that week, and he looked rusty at first, but still did his job. It's a tough Coach Geis is in a very tough position here, right? Do you ride the hot hand that's really helped your offense go? Do you go back to the steady hand that really got your team off to a great start? I don't know. Either way, I would not want to be Coach Geis making that decision. At the end of the day, the right decision is, did you win the football game? It might not even be your quarterback play at all. It could be your defense tonight. Who knows? That's going to be entertaining. The rest of the other games in Northeast Ohio tonight are going to be entertaining, though.
For sure. Really quick, Jordan Beal has set career highs in back-to-back matchups for Green. He had 125 yards against Lake, the game you mentioned, 165 yards last week against St. Charles, so he's coming in on a hot streak. The 2 games that we have tonight, one of them in Stark County, the other one in Tuscarawas. I'll be at the Tuscarawas game. I'll go through that really quickly. Garaway going up against East Knox. The Pirates got off to a good start in the opening round game against Rock Hill last week. I expect them to do kind of more of the same tonight against an East Knox squad that's had some good performances this year, but Garaway's just still this juggernaut of an offense that's got the IVC North Player of the South Player of the Year in Jensen Garber. They have a good quarterback in Brady Geibel. Dylan Sunland, if he can keep the rushing game going, he only had 9 carries last week for 103 yards and 3 scores. That's crucial for a Garaway team. They can also play defense. They also had a pick 6 last week. Let's go to the North game, though, because Canton South this team wants to go on a big playoff run again, even more so than what they were able to do last year before losing to Jefferson Prep. They take on Akron Buchtel tonight. And now on the surface, Akron Buchtel may not seem like this team that can come in and be disruptor because they got off to a bad start this year. I believe they lost 4 of their first 5 games, but they rallied to win 5 of their last 6. They finished second in the Akron City series. They won their playoff game last week, and Brian Williams' squad had some very good defensive stands against their playoff opponent. I believe they had 5 takeaways in the game. They had a pick 6 late in the game that essentially sealed the victory for the Griffins. Buchtel beat Youngstown Cardinal Mooney over in Mineral Ridge. So that's a big win for them. And I'm looking to see what they can do to stop Kansas South tonight, because we all know about Poochie Snyder. He's 3 touchdowns away from breaking the Stark County all-time passing touchdowns record set by Cameron Blair of Sandy Valley. But if you're trying to take away from Canton South, what is the main thing that Buchtel has to focus on? Is it defense? Is it keeping the ball away from the Wildcats? I mean, I figure that's the point.
Yeah. How you stop a great offense is you control the time of possession. You limit the opportunities that offense has. Buchtel has to be disciplined on offense tonight. They have to be able to run the ball. They have to be able to pass and not turn the ball over, right? You don't want this to become a shootout, because we know when it goes shootout-wise, Canton South, well, they haven't been beat yet this year. They're 11-0. And we've seen what they're able to do. Now, their defense, I think, obviously is part of the weak side of them. But until somebody stops Poochie Snyder, it's hard to think somebody's going to stop Poochie Snyder. Nobody's been able to do that this year except for himself when he hit his throwing hand in a helmet and had to leave the game. And even then, it didn't matter. The quarterback comes in, leads a game-winning drive, they win still. I personally thought that their matchup last week said a lot, because they were playing a team for the second time in 2 weeks in Northwest. That's hard to do. And this is a team, I think, that just has this week-by-week goal to go 1-0, but they know their end goal is to end the season on their own terms, not a team ending their season. And I have to ride with Canton South until somebody beats them. Unfortunately, now, if somebody does beat them, there's no way for them to rebound and have a comeback game the next week because it's playoff time. But I think Buchtel's going to give them a test. I do think Canton South still comes out on top tonight, though. I think this is going to be a really entertaining game as well. I think every game you have tonight, for the most part, looking at the schedule here, maybe outside of one Division I game here, is going to be a close football game. I really do.
I'm curious as to which one you'll be thinking, because I have the list right here. We have a number of playoff games matchups here. A couple of them against upper state schools. One of them was St. Ed's going up against Glen Oak. Glen Oak got a victory last week. They'll take on the Eagles here. Canton McKinley is going to play. Well, this is an interesting one. 3-8 St. Ignatius, who got a victory last week out of nowhere, and I was a little surprised. But the Bulldogs did what they had to do last week. I mean, what is this playoff matchup to you? Because this is such a fascinating one to me.
Ignatius beat Menor for the second time last week.
Yes.
Second time this season. They have 2 wins. Those are 2 wins against Menor.
Mm-hmm.
St. Ignatius has 2 wins this year. When is the last time you've ever been able to say that? I don't know if we've been able to say that in our lifetime. At least since we've been able to know what records are.
Yeah, not until the 16-team era.
Yeah. This game's at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium.
Yes.
I like Canton McKinley. Ignatius is going to have players all over the field. They always do. Okay, they play a tough schedule. We know that. I like Canton McKinley here. I think McKinley has enough talent and athletes over the field to be able to compete with Ignatius, and they're going to be at home tonight. And I think that does play a factor. Glen Oak at St. Ed's is the game. I don't know if it's going to be close, because I do think St. Ed's is the best team in the state of Ohio right now in Division I. And it's unfortunate. I hope I'm wrong. Please, I'm looking into the camera right now. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see Glen Oak defeat St. Ed's tonight. This goes all the way back there to, should private and public be playing each other? Like, whatever it may be, that argument people want to have. Well, Glen Oak has some athletes. Sure. They do. Now, do they have the size to stop? I mean, you're talking about, Mitch, a Division I college football line, potentially. So their line at one point was bigger than a few NFL lines this season in terms of combined weight and height. You have 2 Division I commits coming to Ohio State in the Armstrong brothers. I believe, at St. Ed's. Glen Oak has a pair of brothers themselves, though, the Burt brothers. Mm-hmm. And so that's where Glen Oak can't turn the ball over, first off. They turn the ball over, it's going to get ugly fast. They have to play the style, which I just said Book lost to play against Canton South. They have to keep the ball out of Ignatius's hands. Call me crazy, but that means if Glen Oak gets the ball first and you run that ball, you take the play clock down. You limit the time that St. Ed's could possibly have to have that ball and score quick. We know they can score one play. Glen Oak can too. Glen Oak really can. It's just, are they disciplined enough? And I think Coach Scott Garcia, who I still think has not gotten enough credit this year for the team and the job he's done at Glen Oak. They're now 7-4. This is a team I don't think anybody expected to be as competitive as they were this year on the outside. I'm sure inside that locker room they did. It's just a different beast. It's a different beast. And that there's nothing wrong in saying that, I don't think. And that's not a shot at Glen Oak. It's St. Ed's, though. This is a team year in, year out. They're top 5 in the state. They're one of the top seeds in the state. They're a team you don't want to play in the playoffs, and yet here they are. Glen Oak has to go there, which is going to be tough. I really do hope, though, Glen Oak can keep this game close and potentially pull off the upset. I do like McKinley tonight. I already told you I like Green tonight. I like St. Ed's tonight. I don't know where I want to go with Lake, though. That's the other team we have to talk about, too. I like Canton South tonight, too. But then you look at Lake in the Division II Region 7.
Yeah.
They host Big Walnut.
Yes.
And no, if you're out there and you're watching this hoping to get to the game to see Cade Stover, you won't see him because Ohio State is at Rutgers tomorrow, which means they're gone. But Cade Stover's younger brother is on this team for Big Walnut, Sunbury Big Walnut. They're 6-5, Lake 8-3. I think last week you and I saw at Lake, they started slow, right? Perry, Perry, first drive, 10, 12 play, 80-yard drive was like, whoa. Lake throws the interception at the goal line. It's like, oh, are we in store for an upset here? The defense is legit. Outside of the Week 10 game at Green, the defense this year has been legit. They've been able to lean on it. They've been able to get back into football games because of it. I mean, Mitch, there wasn't their first loss this year 12-7?
Yes.
Your defense gave up 12 points. That's incredible. Your offense, unfortunately, just did not have it that day, and that was Week 1. What's really interesting, though, is the winner of this game, of Big Walnut and Lake, plays the winner of Westerville South and Massillon, which
yes, they do.
I'm taking Massillon in that game.
I think it's safe to say right now. I mean, unless something crazy happens.
It's going to be at Massillon tonight. You have to think that place is going to be rowdy, as it always is at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium. I'm going to go with Lake.
Okay.
I'm going to take a lot of these Stark County teams tonight. The only one I can't take with confidence is Glen Oak because
it's going to be on Nate Baker if he comes out to play like he did last week, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's the catalyst of the Blue Streak offense.
I don't think people understand. This is a guy that was a wide receiver last year, and they moved him to running back, and he has flourished, and he is an athlete. When I say athletes, it's guys we talk Ohio State football. You don't have to love Common Core, but what's the one thing I want Ohio State to do? Get the ball into Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands.
Sure.
Get the ball into Nate Baker's hands, and good things usually happen. And that's exactly what happened for Lake last week. Get the ball into Nate Baker's hands, ride the hot hand, lean on the defense, which has been the strongest part of your team all year. We'll see. I do like Lake tonight, though.
So those are the remaining Stark County teams, along with Canton Central Catholic playing Kirtland tonight.
Tough. It's going to be tough. But you know what? Week 1, Big Time Sports was there. Perry and Central.
Yes.
Perry really, dominated Central. Central's been playing good football, though, the second half of the year. And so this is a tough one, too. This is a long drive to Kirtland, long bus ride. Kirtland, we know, is a powerhouse.
Yes.
How many years in a row did they go?
Was it 5, yeah?
Without losing a game. They were playing Division I teams in the COVID year. They were beating Solon. It's all hands on deck tonight. But that's another Stark County team I can't lean with in going with them. Obviously, I'm rooting for them.
Speaking of Perry, not the Perry you're thinking about, but another Perry is facing Sandy Valley tonight in the lower seeded brackets. We also have the likes of South Range going up against Ridgewood, Newcomerstown going up against Fort Fry, and Malvern going up against St. Paul in Division 6 and 7. Hey, Stark County, it's your friends from the local Board of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, and we have a challenge for you. We're asking you to create a new habit and check in on someone every day. Nothing fancy, just a simple text, phone call, or note on social media to ask someone how they're doing. You don't have to be a professional, you just have to ask and then listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Text 4HOPE to 741-741 anytime, day or night, or dial 988. Brought to you by Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Think Ferris. Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partner with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
Happy Sardiversary with Sarda rider Anthony. We're celebrating 25 years with our valued riders.
And I absolutely enjoy riding the buses. I get to know a few of the drivers, very respectful, very professional. Just an all-around about good experience. It helps people get to where they're going. Disabled, veterans, or people going to work.
Thanks to all our riders as we celebrate Sarda 25 at Sarda.
So we go from there. I mean, we could go anywhere. We have a number of topics to get to. I'm at a loss as to where we should go right now because
Browns, keep it football.
All right. Well, we'll make it simple. We'll keep it short and sweet. They're playing Arizona this week. You figure they're going to win.
It's a must-win. This is a must-win game. I don't ever call it must-win games. This is a must-win game because Arizona just traded their starting quarterback in Josh Dobbs.
They did.
To Minnesota. By the way, I think that's good on Josh Dobbs because I think it shows he's performed pretty well this year.
Sure.
He also has to be the most traveled quarterback in the NFL right now. In the past 10 months, Cleveland to Tennessee, to Cleveland, to Arizona, to Minnesota. 5 teams in the past 10 months. I mean, I'm very intrigued to see how he does in Minnesota. I obviously hope he does well because I think he's a very, very intelligent quarterback. I think he's a very nice guy. Given the situation the Browns are in right now, you kind of wish you would held on to him, I think. It's hard. It's hard. I'm not going to sit here and blame Andrew Berry for that whatsoever because DTR did look like the real deal in the preseason. You also didn't expect Deshaun Watson to have an injury. Is it as serious as we think? Is it as serious as they're saying? Is it not? We don't know. We're not going to sit here and act like doctors. I'm not going to because I'm not a doctor. I'm a guy that you're listening to on a podcast right now for Big Time Sports. I don't care who plays quarterback this week for the Browns. I don't. They could ask Josh Cribbs to come back and play Wildcat. You have to beat the Arizona Cardinals. You have to beat them because if you go 4-4 and you're going to Baltimore next week, which
that's and then Pittsburgh the next week at home.
To me, Mitch, after what we saw last week, I think Baltimore right now is the best team in the AFC in totality. I think the Baltimore Ravens, as it stands right now, as we are one game into Week 9 between the Steelers and Titans, I think they're the best team in the AFC.
It's very weird how they just kind of slipped in as like this team that's kind of on the best run right now, even with the likes of Kansas City and Buffalo. I mean, teams you would immediately take in an eye test over Baltimore, but Baltimore has remained the most consistent. There's never been a game where they've completely blown up, besides maybe the Steelers game, which we'll get to them in a second. But I don't know. It's such a fascinating dynamic between them and the rest of the AFC North, particularly right now, even though I think Cincinnati's about to go on a run here and they'll probably take them over at some point. Yeah. That being said, the Browns, I mean, you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And Arizona, like we started off the week thinking, oh, well, Arizona's clearly tanking. They're not going to start Kyler Murray. They're just going to keep on to this whole thing. Then apparently after watching film, they're like, oh, nope, we're changing it. And granted, now we know it's because they were opting into a trade. So you're either bringing back Kyler Murray off of a pretty critical injury from last year, or your 5th round draft pick who you just called up, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Tune. It's the last name is Tune.
Yes,
Clayton Tune.
Clayton Tune. Like, I mean, that sounds like a name created out of the generator in Madden. So I don't think you should lose this week.
This is a game where your defense has been so great all year has to come to play.
And you got to, after the last 2 weeks, you got to come to play because they've had these big gashes against these teams, the likes of Indianapolis and Seattle. If Kyler Murray starts, I don't want to see Kyler Murray scrambling, running out for 15-yard gains. I don't want to see him, launching it out to, I don't even know who he could be launching it out to, but I just don't want him launching it out in general. I want this Cardinals defense to look lost against the Browns defense that's made other teams, better teams, look lost this season. I don't know. If you do lose,
panic mode. It is panic mode. I think. If you lose to Arizona this week, it's surely panic
I think it'll only be panic mode because of who you're playing next.
Yes.
If you were playing like, I don't know, Washington and like Denver the next week, I'd be like, okay, all right, not great, but it's happening. But when you play back-to-back division rivals, hard to beat division rivals, it's gonna be an interesting scenario to beat.
It has to be 1 week at a time. It's hard not to look at the next 2 games, but with how these other teams are playing that are coming up the schedule, after this week, the next 4, in my opinion, are pretty tough. 5, I guess, because I think Jacksonville's the 5th team. But you go to Baltimore, it's not going to be easy. You come home against Pittsburgh. They're not a good football team. The Steelers.
I know.
They're not a good football team. They're not.
That's so frustrating about this whole thing is that, we're 5-3. No. This is not a competitive football team. This isn't. This is a competitive defense, maybe.
Yes.
But this offense is so poorly run that it took Matt Canada to get actually onto a football field in order for that team to have some semblance of competency beyond the last 3 minutes of a game. And even then, it took last night a final drive, one of the final drives from Kenny, but not the final drive, because I couldn't believe that how many times Tennessee got the ball back after that 4th and turnover. That Kenny Pickett remembers how to play football when there's 3 minutes left, and I don't get it. I don't get it with him. It's not even a clutch thing.
No.
This isn't like a guy who's just throwing darts down the field and hitting like these tight windows in order to like find these receivers. These guys are just getting so wide open that you and I could be hitting them. It's so dumb.
Look back to when we played them on Monday Night Football. The one touchdown they scored, George Pickens was in the middle of either lost in man coverage or in the middle of zone coverage and breaks away for a touchdown. Nobody could get him. How many times have we seen that now the past few weeks? If you're a Steelers fan and you're out there and you're listening or you're watching us right now, you cannot tell me you think you're a good football team. You can't.
I don't think they do.
Because we're gonna pull up the stat I read you today.
Okay.
At 5-3, the Steelers are the 34th team since 1933, 90 years, when rushing and receiving stats were first tracked, to be outgained in each of their first 8 games played of the season. They're the only one of those teams to have a winning record afterwards. The Steelers are also the only team this season to be outgained in every game they've played, as they've been outgained by 790 yards. Not 79, not 90, not 70, 790 yards. There's only one team that's worse than that, Mitch, and it's the Denver Broncos, who gave up 70 points in a single game against the Miami Dolphins. I don't want to say it's luck. Are they getting breaks though? Yes, they're definitely catching breaks. Listen. You can call me out for this if you want. I think no matter who wins a championship every year, basketball, football, baseball, hockey, college, pro, even high school, you have to have some sort of resemblance of luck to win it. You have to have a break go your way. That ball has to bounce your way.
Sure.
That guy has to step out of bounds when he thought he was in bounds. Like, that's what's happening with the Steelers, right? To me, that's exactly what's happening with the Steelers.
The opposite happened last night because Pickens thought he had the touchdown, but he didn't get that second foot down.
Yeah, exactly. That's a game that, unless something catastrophic happens to the Browns in the next 2 weeks, the Browns are going to win. I truly believe that. I don't care who plays quarterback. Okay, I am not scared of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You're not?
I think the Browns lost that game for one of two reasons. We don't win in Pittsburgh outside of the playoff game in 2020, right? But they provide a bulletin board material. And
right.
Whether it's professional athletes or high school athletes, it doesn't matter. That stuff does matter.
Sure.
I've seen it firsthand before when I was playing. And you lost the heart and soul of your football team.
I know, yeah.
And that, to me, is hard to come back from. I think you can even look back at Green against McKinley, who had a giant lead this year, and you lost Samino Manson, and that played a factor in how they blew the game to McKinley.
Okay.
When you see one of your leaders go down, it hurts. Not only that, that is your hated rival in Pittsburgh. When that crowd is giving you a round of applause as you get carted off, not because they're happy you got hurt, but because they understood what happened and what type of player Nick Chubb was, that says something too. I'm not afraid of the Steelers. The talk today is, are they a legitimate playoff contender?
No.
You know what?
Stop.
And guess what?
Stop.
If they are, the same thing that happened in 2020 is going to happen to them again.
Yeah.
They're going to get in the playoffs, and they are going to fade, and they're not going to know what to do because they're just not a good football team. Now, if you make mistakes, they're going to beat you. That I will. What did the Browns do in the Monday night game? Pick first play of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Goes the other way for 6. That killed you. But you're right. Last 3 minutes of the game, Kenny Pickett all of a sudden's like, oh, hey, I remember how to play football now. Matt Canada somehow is like, hey, I know what play to call to where somebody's going to be wide open. Screw it. We're 2 weeks away from that game.
I know. We'll focus on that.
We got to
later.
beat Arizona.
29th in points per game. Barely beating out New England, the Giants, and Vegas.
So you mean Vegas, who just fired their head coach and general manager and benched their starting quarterback they just signed. New England, who has no good quarterback because I don't think Mac Jones is a good quarterback.
No, he's
and
not.
the Giants, who signed their quarterback to a $160 million contract extension, who are underdogs this week against a team that just fired their head coach, general manager, and benched their quarterback.
Yeah.
Those are 3 trash football teams.
That's not good.
Those are 3 trash football teams. We're done. We'll worry about it when we come back to Pittsburgh. But the Browns, this is a must-win game against Arizona.
Yeah.
If they lose this game, I think you're going to be in a world of pain because of I think if you lose this game, the first thing that's going to come up, and it's whether it's right or wrong, is going to be, is it the right coach? Why isn't Deshaun Watson playing? Now, he hasn't been ruled out yet.
Right.
I don't know what to expect. Although
he talked yesterday, and that was a whole thing where, like, some were saying, "Oh, he's not sure if he's going to play," but then, like, I didn't know what to make of that whole press conference. I
don't think anybody did. I don't think anybody outside that Browns locker room, and maybe not even outside the Browns locker room. I don't know if some people in the Browns locker room knows what's going on right now. You can't tell me the coach does, because the coach against Baltimore said he's playing, and then he doesn't play.
Right.
And then against Indianapolis, it was he's playing. Luckily, sorry, that's the wrong choice of word there, because I am not happy Deshaun Watson had to leave the game for concussion protocol for a second. But with that hit, if Deshaun Watson plays that game against Indianapolis,
lose.
We're not winning that game.
Yeah, probably.
And it's that's why you don't want Deshaun Watson's first game to be back against Baltimore, because I just don't think that's a recipe for success in Baltimore. At the same time, though, you have to win this game first. You have to go 5-3 and not 4-4 before you go to Baltimore. And so I don't think when the season started, I'd be sitting here telling you Sunday, November 5th might be the biggest game of the year for the Cleveland Browns. I don't think I would have said that against Arizona because you knew Kyler Murray was going to be out. I think before the season started, you kind of thought Colt McCoy would be the quarterback. Then we thought it was Josh Dobbs. The Browns are in a really weird spot right now because this is such a monumental game for them in the season.
You see that they're getting Paul Keels to voice the radio broadcast of the game this week, which is cool.
And so Ohio State's in New Jersey, and then they're going to fly back, and then he's going to have to get to Cleveland to call the game next. That's impressive. So anybody out there that thinks broadcasters have an easy job?
You know, it's also impressive being the top-ranked football team in the country, baby. Let's go! You're happy about it, clearly. Oh, yeah, I love the fact that we had that clip on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show YouTube channel the other day about how you didn't want Ohio State number one. And what did the playoff committee do? Make them number one. This is a rich feeling.
Personally, no, I didn't want to be number one.
Yeah.
Is it the right move making them number one given the other teams that were in contention? Yes. Michigan's played absolutely nobody, and the teams they've played, they've had to cheat to win this year. That's not even a lie because, I mean, that's the other. We need to talk about that a little more today, too.
Okay.
And Georgia's beaten nobody. Ohio State has 2 top 10 wins, one on the road,
one
at
do.
home. I mean, to me, when you look at resume, at the same time with how much parity's in college football this year, you could have made a case, I think, for the top 6 teams in college football. I think if there's one team in the country right now that I would not want to play, it's Oregon.
I've heard this.
I think Oregon losing to Washington may have been the best thing that happened to them.
Could be.
And I think they woke up a little bit. Not to say that they were sleepwalking, because I think they
No.
But since they lost that game to Washington, they've had an edge on them, and they look scary good. And I'm intrigued to see if Washington now with this, Washington has pressure on them because who was the team from the Pac-12 when the season started? Everybody thought was going to be the top team.
USC.
Where are they at in the rankings?
I don't even know.
20th.
Yeah,
they're done.
Yeah,
now
they're done. Utah's done.
We knew they were done after 1 loss, probably. 2 losses, they're definitely done because their other wins, they barely got past Arizona State. Their defense is horrific.
Yes.
They have a Big 12 coach at a Pac-12 school that brought the Big 12 defense with him because Big 12 doesn't play defense. And that's exactly what's happening at USC. I think Washington's going to feel the pressure now knowing we're the last team before things could get hairy to where if we don't control our own destiny, we're probably out. Oregon, I think, has the path where if they just went out, they're going to probably be in. And call me crazy. We have to see what happens with Michigan first.
Well, yeah.
I think there is a world in which the college football playoff this year, and it's going to take a lot of chaos. I can see it in which there is a world of the college football playoff is 4 teams, 2 from the same conference, 2 from the Big 10, 2 from the Pac-12. I could see Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and Washington all get it in. If Washington wins out, they're in. Right?
Yeah.
Specifically because Michigan, Ohio State, one of them is going to knock each other out.
Right. Yeah.
If that happens and Oregon wins out, I think they're both in. So then you're sitting here realizing, okay, if Ohio State and Michigan, right? For the sake of this argument, I'm not going to say Ohio State wins. If that is a closely contested game in the Big House and Ohio State were to lose by 3, okay, game-winning field goal, let's call it 34-31.
Yeah.
Georgia loses somewhere. Where they're going to lose, I don't know. I think your argument then becomes: are they going to take a 1-loss Georgia team that has absolutely no big wins in the season?
Okay.
Or are you going to take a 1-loss team that lost on the road to their 3rd top 10 team in a close fashion?
That makes sense.
But that's the thing is I think you can make an argument for almost anybody to get in right now because of how wide open college football is right now. You can't sit here and tell me who the top team in the country is.
If Georgia's going to lose, it has to be in the SEC championship game because if they were to lose in the last couple of weeks and then go back to win the SEC title, then they're going to hold that against whoever loses the Ohio State Michigan
100%.
game.
That's why I think. But the flip side, if Alabama beats Georgia, does Alabama get it?
Jesus.
But Alabama hasn't. Alabama hasn't looked good, but at the same time, they're getting better. They are. It's scary.
By the way, we're completely forgetting Florida State, who's probably just clinched they've got it. The ACC this year.
But if they were to lose,
and they've had some close games too.
Yeah, they have. I mean, what Boston College?
Boston College nearly lost.
Was a close one.
Yep.
Yeah. So realistically,
Clemson.
for the sake of this argument, Ohio State is 1, Georgia is 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4.
Right.
If the college football playoff started today, it's those 4 teams.
And it helps that we're at Michigan this year, so it's a little harder to win there. So the committee may be like, well, it was at their place. And if it's close, then you have an argument there.
And it wasn't even close last year in the game we lost to Michigan at home. We still got
Well, it got away from him at the end, yeah.
Right. Now, why did it get away?
Because we basically gave up, and yeah. Well, I mean,
Did you give up because you were frustrated? Did you give up because
they were frustrated because some things might have been going on. We don't know. I mean,
well, the video surfaced this week.
I'm keeping an open mind.
The video surfaced this week of one of the most famous people in America right now, Connor Stallions, on the sidelines saying, "Run right." Michigan audibles the defense. They stop Ohio State. Right. We'll stop there. But is it speculation?
I'm for my sake. I'm saying yes.
I'm not going to say it's speculation.
You can go ahead and say that.
There's too much evidence right now. I don't know if you saw
Dallas
yesterday.
says this.
Purdue, like most college teams, right? Every university or program has some sort of show they do with the coach once a week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this yesterday. Michigan is at Purdue this week.
Yes.
Did you see what Purdue's head coach said?
I saw he said something. I don't know exactly what he said.
He said he's not sure why a punishment hasn't been handed down yet. He said this is not allegations. He said there's proof. To his point, you have a trail of where you can trace the ticket purchases from. You have video evidence of this man in another team's coaching gear on the sideline at a game in which Michigan wasn't even playing.
That I know is true.
And then you have the proof of him standing next to the offensive and defensive coordinators last year at Ohio State, telling him what the defense and offense for Ohio State were calling with the signals. And he said he thinks punishment should be handed down now. I'm intrigued, Mitch, because let's not forget, all this came out, and then Michigan, I believe, played Michigan State 2 weeks ago. And then Michigan wanted to bye. Where is Michigan at right now? Where are these players at right now? Where's Jim Harbaugh's head at right now? This is a man that was just about to get a contract extension, make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. And they rescinded it. There's now another report that a Michigan staffer had an issue, which that is allegations. We're not going to talk about that because there's no proof in that one yet. As far as the cheating scandal, there's more and more coming out every day. And it's pretty damning, I think, because now you're talking about the Astros sign stealing gate to a whole nother degree, because the whole you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Wait,
if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I think every team has some sort of way to try to look for that competitive advantage. And I think it's fair in a sense, but this one is not fair. There's obviously rules and regulations in the NCAA that prohibit you from doing what Michigan did for good reason. I'm still concerned though, because like most people, I don't think that not that it's ever at the top of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
College football playoff. College football, NCAA. Mm-hmm. The college football playoff is not associated with the NCAA. The NCAA could put down a punishment, and the college football playoff committee could say, yeah, Michigan's still winning games. We're going to take them though.
Right.
Which to me is absurd. I think that sets the wrong precedent that tells people like, yeah, do whatever you have to do to win. If you win, you look like a good team, we're going to take you. To the original point of I could see 2 Big Ten and 2 Pac-12 schools in, I like it. And for my last point here, for everybody out there that complained about the 12-team playoff, this would be the perfect year, because there is so much parity now. Yeah. Now, look, I personally think, the top 4 would get a bye, I believe, and the next 8 would play. Okay. But if you were just going on the top 12 and the 12 plays to 1, I'm not scared of Missouri if Ohio State played Missouri and Columbus. Are you kidding me? I look at this and I say, okay, top 9 teams, I think any of them could win. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma. 10, 11, and 12 are Ole Miss. Penn State, whose defense is legit. Drew Aller, I think, looks overmatched as the young quarterback there.
Yeah.
And then Missouri. And then after that, Louisville, LSU, Notre Dame. But like, for everybody out there that was hell-bent and complaining about the 12-team playoff, this would be the perfect year because there is so much parity in college football.
It would be a very interesting year. As far as Ohio State goes, I know they're heavily favored against Rutgers this week. I just need, like, Rutgers is 5-2, and I know that Rutgers 5-2 is different from like one of the big Power 5 schools, but like you need to get your focus on this week. Then you have Michigan State and Minnesota. Those ones I'm not as scared of, and then of course you got the game here in a couple weeks, which is going to be interesting to say the least. But hey, number 1, and everybody's clawing for your spot right now, which feels pretty nice. So yeah,
I just didn't want to be number one because I think the first ranking that comes out can get to people's heads.
Sure.
And I'm worried. Now, I'm not worried Ohio State loses to Rutgers. I'm not worried Ohio State.
I'm always worried. I mean, just my sake, yeah.
For some reason, I'm always worried whenever Ohio State plays at Maryland. And I think back to the game with Dwayne Haskins.
At Maryland, okay.
Remember the year Dwayne Haskins was quarterback? And I think Ohio State was
Yes.
52-51 was the final. Something like that. They won.
Oh, yeah.
It was the week before Michigan. It's the typical trap game. Right.
Yeah.
Now this year, thankfully, Ohio State plays.
I'm more scared playing at Purdue and at Wisconsin are my two ones where I'm like,
we got those out of the way.
Maybe Iowa, but not this Iowa. But
no.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you know. Pretty sure Iowa plays Northwestern this week. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they do. 2 weeks ago, I think it was Iowa and Minnesota that they had set the lowest over/under total in the history of legalized sports.
What was like 18?
30, I think it was 30.5. I'm actually going to pull it up here so I can be certain.
Okay.
But I do believe Iowa now has set the record yet again for the lowest over/under point total in a football game in history this week. They are 5-point favorites at Northwestern, which I believe this game's played at Wrigley Field, if I'm not mistaken. And the over/under is 30.5. So it has moved. I believe earlier this week, though, it was 27.5.
So if it was 5-point favorites, I'm trying to do some math here. That would make it what, around like 18 to 12.5? Is that like what the score would be like expected?
Yeah. Yep. To hit the under, it'd be 18 to 12 would be the final score because it's 30.5. So it'd be 30 points right there.
Great.
I don't know.
That's
I do think what we need to do though next week on a show, because we have a lot more to talk about today, is once this week is complete, we got to talk about the Big Ten West, because the team that comes out of the Big Ten West for the Big Ten championship game, oh my gosh. I'm not sitting here saying this because I think I've always wanted to see Ohio State, Michigan play back-to-back games. But the realignment coming is going to be beneficial because for the past, let's call it 4, 5, 6 years, the top 3 teams in the Big Ten have all been from the Big Ten East, in Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because those teams have typically beat up on each other. Mm-hmm. But moving forward, you're going to eventually get the top 2 teams of the Big Ten year in, year out in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, but it's like the Inter Valley Conference, where the South just has like Garaway and Ridgewood and Sandy Valley and the lakes of Claymont and Indian Valley and all of them. And then the North, it's Malvern, Strasburg, Franklin, Newcomerstown, Buckeye Trail, East Canton. Those schools can win a number of times, but we see it in the showcase, whether it's in volleyball or basketball, the South teams almost always beat up on the North teams. There's some exceptions here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a similar setup.
Oh. If you're an Ohio State fan, you should be very excited, by the way.
What's that?
Because Marvin Harrison's comments this week about his younger brother.
I did see that. Jet Harrison.
Heck of a name.
Sure.
Saying he's 14 years old, already better than Marvin was at that age, and he wants to follow Marvin's footsteps. You don't think as soon as Marvin said that? Now, now listen. Typically, when you go on college visits, now this to me could be different because of the family Marvin Harrison comes from. It could have just been him and dad. Obviously, one of the better wide receivers we saw in the NFL at the time. Typically, your whole family goes on visits for the most part. I'd have to assume that. What he said, Jet? No, what's his brother's name?
Jet.
Jet. It is Jet. Okay. Jet was probably already there, but you don't think after Marvin Harrison's comments, Ryan Day and the coaches already started to look at him? If he's better than Marvin was
obviously.
That age, I mean, and he wants to follow his footsteps and go to Ohio State, that's huge. Huge. Just get the ball in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands and let him go to work, please. And this man is going to single-handedly take himself to the Heisman Trophy presentation. I'm not saying he's going to win.
He might as well get. I mean,
if Washington loses again,
well, I mean,
or if Washington loses. Oregon were to lose again, it's probably going to be Florida State's quarterback, Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll see. But
we'll definitely see.
Either way, Jet Harrison, welcome to Columbus. We're excited to have you in 2028.
Somewhere around there, 29
somewhere around
for sure.
Yeah, 28, 29, whatever. You might reclassify, come in early, who knows. But we're excited to have you.
It is now time for another segment of Fuel, Move, Recover, featuring Dr. Michele Iono, President of Advancing Athletics and Physical Therapist. Michele, thank you so much for taking the time again this week.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
So our conversation this week, after we talked about warm-ups and warm-up routines a few weeks ago, is now going to be focused on the post-physical activities, the cool down. I mean, we go into this segment. I mean, we talk about the importance of cooling down after strenuous activity. What makes it so that it's so important, Michele, for people to go through this sort of routine after going through an extended period of physical activity?
As always, Mitch, the first thing I just want to remind everybody that this is not medical advice. It's more education and just general knowledge. And so if you have questions about the things we discussed today, make sure that you reach out to me or your athletic trainer or a medical professional that you trust. Now, the way I like to think about this is you don't charge your phone before you use it. Obviously, our phones get into this perpetual like state of usage, so it always needs like a little bit of charge. But the reason why you charge it at night is because you used it all day the day before. So that way it's at a full battery for like the next day. So I like to think about that when I talk about cool down and its importance. It's the same kind of thing to where like, you know, you drive your car, then you have to put gas in it. Or, you know, you work out, then you need to eat. A lot of people can like exercise with like minimal amounts of fueling because, you know, we have our own body's internal kind of storage for fuel. And then I think about the same thing for like muscle development. Like how many times have like you gone for a jog and you just kind of like jog, or like, you know, you just kind of start. Or for our non-joggers, think of how many times that you like kind of like jog across the street, you know, like you don't stop to like stretch beforehand, you know. So it's more about making sure your body is ready after the fact for the next instant, and that you're either washing off and or kind of washing off the negative effects, or kind of restoring the muscles that kind of helped you perform, whether it was practice or in a competition. The other benefit, kind of like what I was just talking about, is, you know, with mental health, or sorry, like as we talked about last week with mental health, you know, I think this ties in as well, Mitch, because what we're able to do is, you know, you're in this high state of arousal, you're in this like fight or flight stress response, your adrenaline's pumping, and that simply doesn't just end whenever your competition ends. Now, for some athletes, let's say like tennis, you know, you have your match and then you leave, and then you're kind of cooling down while your teammates are going or whatever, unless you're the very last match of the competition. Same thing with track and field. So you have your outings, and then all of a sudden you're able to cool down after you finish your competition, your events, again, unless you have the very last event of the meet. So same thing with like a starting pitcher, like, you know, you're going to be cooling down after you finish. So the physiological part also fits in with the mental part, making sure that you're able to kind of get yourself into this good baseline that you were at before, and kind of take inventory of everything that like was used and how you feel, and like, what do I need to do for the next day, the next week, the next game to make sure I'm ready to perform my best. And then just the one final thing is, you know, the importance of what to cool down, when to cool down, how much to cool down. That's super dependent upon like the sport, your age, how much you played, all these other kind of things.
You know, our Fuel, Move, Recover segment digs usually into the underlying concepts of sports and performance. And from a glance, you know, it's not always obvious that there are teams that go through the cool down process after games. It feels like once the final buzzer or the final out has been made, it's kind of like, okay, we're done. Even in practices, that might sometimes be the case. Is it common that you see a cool down method for teams in the area? And if so, why?
No, I don't think it's very common. Now, again, I'm not at every competition. And so a lot of what I see, what I know about the practices of teams is dependent on either my work with the teams, or when I go as a spectator, or my work with the individual athletes. So I think that, you know, the use of cool downs, why we cool down or why you don't cool down, I think it's probably, there's the three big things. Okay, let me stop for a second. So the point is that there's typically 3 reasons, either by themselves or a combination of these things, are why lots of coaches and or athletes don't cool down. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not other reasons, and this also doesn't mean that some coaches don't prioritize that. Of course they do. But typically these are the 3 things that I see why people don't do that. First of all, so they are time management, the choice paradox concept, and then assumptions. So time management, you can only ask so much of your team and your coaches and of yourself. So I think, like we've talked about with so many other episodes and topics, is that, these kids are humans. These aren't professional athletes. They have things to do. They have to get home. They have homework. We talk so much about football, which is like primary to our society here in America. And it's so different than like every other sport. Every other sport plays multiple sports a week and almost always during the school week. And then you just go one level up into college. And then, like the Kent State Akron game was last night on a Wednesday of all times. So, those kids have to get back to school, have to get back, do their homework and whatnot. Yeah, they may get some exceptions, for their workload because they're athletes, but they still have to do the work. So let's not act like they're just getting full passes. And even, only the like best athletes in the country, like I'm talking like there's probably like 100 of them or a couple hundred of them. And, there's thousands of football players. Only the top couple really get noticeable, maybe exceptions that shouldn't be given to them and or are a part of the game of sports. But that's beyond this conversation. The point is that the majority of athletes, especially in high school, have to get back to their lives. Or it's like mom and dad have been waiting all this time. It's like we want to go to dinner, whatever. So I think it's that coaches decide, what do I think is more valuable? Keeping them, having them longer before the game or shorter or longer after the game. And then I just think that they prioritize like all the warming up stuff, which is beneficial as well. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the paradox of choice. So this is like a behavioral psychology thing to where when people have too many options, they become paralyzed. The point is that when you think so much about something, sometimes it's like, I can't decide on what to do. So I just stop trying to make a decision at all. And I do nothing. So I think that's the other thing too, is that coaches don't want to do something that has a negative effect. And so what they do is they end up deciding to not do that at all, that thing. It's kind of like what we talked about. I think that was like maybe 2 weeks ago. You said that you have your own kind of warm-up routine or like daily stretch routine or whatever. And, I absolutely am encouraging of that, even though like I just totally disparaged, stretching immediately before you said that. Because the important thing is that you don't allow the choice paradox to overwhelm you into doing nothing. Something is almost always better than nothing unless it's causing pain. So I think that that's why, coaches don't do stuff, is they're not sure what to do. So they just don't do anything at all. And then the final thing is assumptions, in that, they might think, oh, cooling down is not that important. Or they think, oh, I've, with the choice paradox kind of wrapped into this, I usually don't have my teams cool down and I haven't seen a negative effect. So it must not be that bad. But that's not like a true A/B analysis, because really it's like I'm going to have half the team do a cool down and the other half of the team not cool down. And then let's see if there's a difference between the two. So I think that that's probably why that's those 3 things. And on top of that, you spend all this time and effort on the game and you finish the game or the competition. And then you're like, okay, let's just come back tomorrow. Let's leave it where it is. And then we'll try to start putting stuff back together, in the coming days or weeks or whatever.
So let's say somebody wants to start implementing a cooling down process, whether it be a coach or a singular player. What do you feel are the most consistent routines or practices? When people think cool down, what what should be the first things that come to mind?
I think first of all that this is similar, Mitch, to what we talked about the warm-ups. This is not a way to get you out of doing the team warm-up, even if you think it sucks. There might be certain things that coaches are trying to accomplish. And also I believe very strongly in team morale. And so you going off and doing your own thing and acting like you're different, even if you're just like, hey, I want to be even more ready for the team. It doesn't look good when you're, being the one person not doing stuff. So any of the things we talk about are either in addition to the obligations that your team has for you, and or like feel free, coaches, to add in small pieces of this and then slowly start to build stuff up over time. So the three things I think about are ice tubs, activation, and mobility. So the key here is inflammation. Inflammation needs like a new PR rep. They have to do a rebranding campaign because everybody hears the word inflammation and they go running away. Inflammation is the key to performance enhancement in every aspect. The difference is that we want inflammation to be controlled. And so, for example, ice tubs have become very popular. Initially, it was used largely by like football players because, we're literally, getting into miniature car wrecks every game and every practice, depending on how physical it is. So that's meant to literally calm down the inflammation in your body. But, like pitchers, baseball players, they ice their shoulders or their elbows or whatnot, and that's essentially doing the same thing. So the problem is whenever you overact or overreact, and then you are halting that inflammation process entirely. This is the same thing to where, we would not advise you to take Advil right after you like lift. That soreness or your body's perception of there being damage and inflammation, of there being damage creates inflammation. That inflammation that gets created helps to regenerate and build up muscles for the future. So ice tubs are great to use for the whole body because it kind of like moderates that inflammatory response. And also there's some like other metabolic benefits that, that I'm not going to talk about right now. That's why like adults use them and whatnot. But it's been shown that doing an ice tub, not right after you work out, but maybe like an hour or so after you work out, gives you the perfect amount of time to do some of these other kind of things, like getting some fuel in you, which you want to do like immediately, and then get into like the activation and mobility stuff. So let's say that like the activation stuff is like to reactivate the muscles that you use. So like for a pitcher, I'm going to have them go through a few rounds of their arm care routine. So activating their rotator cuff, getting some of their scapular muscles to turn on, their Ys, their Ts, their Is, internal, external rotation. For a football player, because it's such a leverage dominant position or leverage dependent position, sport, I would have them go through their hip exercises, adductor stretches, glute bridges, clamshells, sideline hip abduction, monster walks, things like that, just to kind of get your hips maybe turned back on. Maybe if you're doing a lot of hitting, we might also do some rotator cuff stuff to kind of keep your hips kind of active and warmed up. And then same thing with like rotational athletes, whether it's tennis, volleyball, baseball, we're going to activate that other side, that opposite side, because that's why those sports have so many like abdominal oblique injuries, because you're rotating the same way over and over and over again. So that kind of like rebalances you as compared to just continuing to develop these asymmetries as the year goes on. So that's, and then finally, like the mobility part, you're going to get all this tension in certain muscles, because even though it's a sport and you're not just like, working in a assembly line, you're going to repeatedly use certain muscles. And remember a couple of weeks ago how we talked about stretching kind of shuts down muscles. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the perfect time to do that stretching, because we want these muscles to calm down and then kind of like go back to their original stiffness or tension.
And with that, going back to what we talked about warm-ups, we also talked about some of the certain tools that you can invest in to try and help you out with the warm-up process. Are there any particular tools you can use during a cool down? We talked about the ice baths. Are there any particular other ones that athletes may get into?
Yeah. So just to go back to the ice bath, not everybody's going to have that. So you could take like a cold shower. And let me tell you, it is not fun. It is not fun at all. The nice part about an ice tub, I mean, you can even like just run your bathtub at cool water, get like a thermometer from the kitchen, and you want that water to be under 60 degrees. So I think you should be able to get that, if you turned your faucet, to cold water, you should be able to get that, especially this time of year. The water is going to be coming, the water will be pretty cold coming from the pipes. So you could do that. We talked about stretching bands a second ago. And the other ones that we haven't mentioned are foam rollers, percussion guns, and then maybe like a sauna, hot tub, or hot shower. So first we'll talk about the water treatment. So going back and forth between ice tub and heat, that's something that you can do, maybe like 5 and 10, and do a couple cycles of that. Other piece of equipment, like we've discussed for warm-ups, foam rollers, percussion guns, or massage guns are great because you're able to really kind of work out the tension, not only in individual muscles, because obviously like with stretching, we just pull on the two ends of the muscle. You're not working that specific area that has that extra trauma. And remember, this isn't for bruises like for football. If you have a bruise, rolling it out is not going to help the bruise. This is more for like you feel stiff in your hips or your quads or your calves maybe. So like for like a basketball player or maybe a DB, I might have them roll or do a percussion gun on their calves, in their hamstrings, just to kind of keep that stuff functioning normally. We've talked about in weeks in the past, just what a pickle it is to get yourself into, if you hurt a hamstring. So just trying to do some maintenance on your posterior chain, that can be really effective. And then the final thing I want to touch on, again, with temperature and water contrast therapy, as we call it, is some people, it used to be ice when it hurts, heat to warm up. Now we see that there's actually a lot of individual variation to that. Some people do better when they get more heat to an area, because it kind of gets the blood flow going. So sometimes that helps more. And then sometimes ice helps more in the cool down environment. Warming up, ice is almost never useful because we want muscles to like be warm, to be kind of ready to go. If you're having to ice something, then you're either having to really play through something, or you're having to just be really like managing an injury while you're trying to play. Like I worked with a kid who had a partial tear in his UCL, his Tommy John ligament from baseball. He wasn't planning on playing in college past high school. It was his senior year, and he just wanted to be out there. He wanted to play. And so for him, if he did tear his UCL all the way, it wasn't going to be that big of a deal, because he didn't have to he didn't have a college future to think about. So for him, we let him play through the pain more. We let him just kind of ice and just allow that to kind of go forward. So these are all tools that you can use. And remember that regardless of what you choose, even just a little bit is better than nothing. And what you find the more often you do it is that your body needs or likes certain kind of things, and you can just focus on that.
And with that, Doc, where can those who may be seeking out services such as yours find yourself or Advancing Athletics?
Thanks, Mitch. So you can, if you have questions about anything that we've talked about, services or whatnot, you can reach out to me. Recover@Advancing Athletics is my email. You can follow me on Twitter/X and Instagram at Michele Iono, MICHELEIONNO, and find Advancing Athletics on Facebook and Instagram as well.
And that is Fuel, Move, Recover with Dr. Michele Iono of Advancing Athletics. Thanks, Michele.
Thanks, Mitch.
Vibe Auto Sales, located on West High Avenue in New Philadelphia and Cleveland Avenue in Canton, is a used car dealership committed to getting financing for everyone. We give every customer that walks in our showrooms a prime buying experience, no matter their credit score or financial situation. Current inventory can be viewed at www.wefinancenow.com. Check out our Facebook pages for the most up-to-date information about upcoming events and promotions happening at Vibe Auto Sales.
Are you trying to increase your speed, quickness, vertical leap, and agility? If so, NST Sports Performance is for you. NST trains athletes ages 5 through pro. NST designs each program specific to the athlete's needs, goals, and sports. For more, visit nstsports.com. Locations in North Canton and New Philadelphia. It's nstsports.com.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
Have you checked in on someone yet today? This is your reminder. A simple text, call, or message. You don't have to be a professional to check in. You just have to ask and listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Dial 988, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A message from Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery. We congratulate them. We say welcome to them. We say congratulations, by the way, to the Texas Rangers for winning your first World Series championship in franchise history. It was 2-1, I believe, when we had last did our show, and Texas did what it had to do in Phoenix to get those 2 victories. 2 very different victories. Game 4, they get off the gate so hot that it was 10-0 by the second or third inning, and you're like, okay, well, this is over. Then Game 5 the other night was like, okay, it's kind of a ball game. Arizona kept it scoreless for the first couple of innings. Texas got on the board late, and then they finally broke through in that 9th inning where, I don't know, man, there was just something really good feeling about this World Series title this year for a Texas team that had a couple of bad... What?
Didn't cheat?
For a Texas-based team that, as far as we know, and who knows what's going to happen here the next couple of months or even years, what's going to come out about it. But this, unlike what, even before the cheating scandal, I never felt goodwill for what the Astros did against the Dodgers. I was like, you know what, all right, whatever, this team, fine. But Texas, I'm like, you know what, good for them, because they've had some lumps in the last decade or so in the playoffs, the losses back-to-back in the World Series, David Freese, the Jose Bautista divisional round game. This one, they got it done. 2 years after losing 100-plus games, Bruce Bochy is in the pantheon right now. This man has won 4 World Series championships and won it this 4th one in his first year with this team. I can't even really you knew he was going to the Hall of Fame when he retired from San Francisco. Like, all right, this guy's got it. But to come back and not miss a beat this is Joe McCarthy, Stengel, freaking Walt Alston, Joe Torre, levels of pantheon. The man is one of the all-timers now.
Winning a World Series is hard.
Yeah.
Winning 2 is hard. Winning 3 is hard. He's now won 4, and he broke the reputation of he can only win in even-numbered years because he won in 10, 12, and 14 with the Giants, and now this year he wins in 23.
There was a stat where it was before the series he had won 15 out of his last 16 postseason series. I can name you exactly which one he didn't win. The 2016 divisional round where the Cubs came back and beat the Giants in the year that we thought they would get it done again because it was 10, 12, 14, 16.
Yep.
But it wasn't.
And we ended up seeing
that's the last one.
We saw what happened in 16.
By the way, happy 7 years ago yesterday, Rajai Davis's home run in the World Series, and then nothing else happened after that.
Nothing.
As far as I remember.
Game didn't end. It definitely didn't rain.
It got rained out.
No, it definitely didn't rain.
Yeah.
That was crazy to see that yesterday. I realized 7 years ago. I was a freshman.
Where were you when that happened?
I was outside Progressive Field. I was at the watch party.
Oh, okay. I went to the watch party for Game 6, and I was like, I don't know if I want to make the drive up there again. I was in my college dorm room.
I went to every game except for one. I went to games 1 and 2 outside Progressive Field, and then one of games. I was at 2 of the 3 road games at the watch party inside Progressive Field. The one I didn't. I worked a Browns game that day and was just tired and didn't want to go back downtown. And then games 6 and 7, a couple of friends and I, we drove downtown. We went to the watch party in the plaza there. That's a night I'm never going to forget because of the pure raw emotion
of
Rajai. I still remember calling my dad after he hit the home run, pure emotion, just thinking that was it. We just stole the momentum. We were back. We were finally going to win a World Series. And then nothing happened after that.
I mean, number one, the fact that when he hit that ball, I was like, there's no way. Okay, it's a good hit, but is it it's over. I couldn't believe that. And then you had to imagine what Chicago fans must have been thinking in that moment.
There was some by me.
I believe it.
They just stood there in disbelief.
I could not. I would never wish that feeling upon any fan, even an Astros fan, even a Michigan fan. I would never.
I would against.
No, I mean, no. That feeling.
Steelers fans too. Yeah, they can go cry.
That feeling is harsh. But congratulations to Texas, man. That was just a good hitting team. That was a good baseball team, and we'll get. Oh, I almost spoiled the fact of the day. We'll get to it at the end of the show. So where do we go from that?
Oh wait, one point to the World Series is it's amazing what happens when your owner spends money. Did I say that out loud?
You have.
Wow.
Many times.
I don't know. It's like they bought Corey Seager and they bought Marcus Semien.
Yeah, and they weren't using
Jacob deGrom,
and they weren't using them correctly the first year or two until Bruce Bochy. I mean, I'm not saying Bruce Bochy is the only reason, but
right.
Hey, we're looking for a manager right now. Apparently, we're looking at Craig Counsell. Apparently, I mean, not a bad manager by any means. Took Milwaukee to some postseason runs.
700 some wins.
There's still some resentment for the 97 Marlins team. And apparently the 2001 Diamondbacks team. The team that took down one of the great dynasties. And
we would literally that would be such a full circle moment to hire the guy that beat you in Game 7 of the 97.
The only person we could have gone after as a manager that would have hurt more was Edgar Renteria, but that's neither here nor there. So there's that. I want to go back to what we were talking about, the NBA. Cavs split with the Knicks this week. I was at the home game. It wasn't pretty. Yet, Wednesday I couldn't watch because of Bally, but
shout out Bally Sports for having it figured out.
Shout out, man. No wonder you're thriving in business right now.
Doing great.
But no, this is it's a week where you kind of take and give. The team is obviously still kind of banged up. No Darius Garland, no Jarrett Allen.
LeVert missed a game in there.
He came back for the New York game, yeah.
Who else has missed a game? Ty Jerome's missed a game.
Ty Jerome, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they've dealt with some adversity already early on in the season. The defense has not looked the same.
No.
Now.
No.
Does the additions the Cavs made on the roster this year have a factor to that? I think it does. Yeah.
I don't think they have as many scrappers.
They definitely don't. That's a great point. They don't. Lamar Stevens was the definition of a junkyard dog.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here saying I'm not pounding the table saying Lamar Stevens was the guy you had to keep. I will say, game one, I completely forgot we didn't have him anymore. I also forgot we didn't have Jetty Osman anymore.
You know who came in the Knicks game late on Tuesday night that I forgot we didn't have anymore?
Don't even say it. Don't even say it. Because I couldn't even believe he played. Because usually he doesn't even know what a basketball court looks like, except for when he's sitting courtside in street clothes.
We also saw Diabite when the Israeli National League team came in. I was like, oh, yeah.
All right, say his name now.
Dylan Windler.
Dude played more minutes,
That's how out of reach that game was.
Dude played more minutes for the Knicks the other night, I think, in Cleveland than he ever did in Cleveland for the Cavs in, 4 years? I mean,
Maybe.
my gosh.
I don't know.
I saw the thing of former Cavalier Dylan Windler.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, one, we finally got rid of him. Two, oh my God, he's actually on the basketball court warming up.
Either way, that game was bad. The game in the Garden was good. Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan played very well against a crowd that was trying to make an example of him. In the sense of, like, after that Tuesday game, I'm sure there were a lot of Knicks fans that were kind of reaching from the feelings of last year's playoff win. I remember that. I still remember that. What was it? Side talk video where they were I think they were making it in real time. They're like, "Hey Donovan, don't you wish you came to the Knicks?" And we let off the show with that one clip. I still think there are Knicks fans that are like still bitter that they weren't able to trade for him, and they're like, "All right, he's only on a 3-year deal. Give him time. Give him time. He'll come back." It's like the guy from Hamilton. You'll be back, but. I don't know. That was a really good performance. The man is consummate professional at each and every game. Never has a feeling so far of like, oh, I'm done with this team. Like, obviously, it's only a season and change into his Cavs tenure, but yeah, I liked what I saw from the team on Wednesday. I'm just hoping we can kind of get our guys back and get some bolstering of the paint together. Evan Mobley on Tuesday night. I mean, say what you want about what he can do. And he had a couple of good moves in there. He's still getting kind of bullied by himself, granted, by the likes of like what I'm calling Robinstein now for the Knicks, that Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not even that they're great big men, but they're big men. They're sizable. Mitchell Robinson's like a big, bulky
thick
dude.
Like they're thick. They really are. You look at Mobley; he's tall and he's skinny.
Rail thin, and some of his shots were okay. Some of his shots are still like line drives thrown at the basket. And this emphasis on threes this year. I know, like, part of what I liked about the Cavs' resurgence is that we were kind of playing a mix of, like, old school and new school. And when you try to go for that new school thing of just jacking up three-pointers to try and outshoot the other team, it can be really beneficial, but can also be really costly. And I think if you're really not on your game, like you were on Tuesday, that can be extremely costly. I didn't like seeing Max Strus going 1 for 7. I didn't like,
He was 0 for the next night.
Gosh. Nobody on the Cavs other than him and I think Niang had more than 2 or 3 threes, which is, frustrating. But yeah, I'm hoping that we can get a better balance here in the next couple of games, get our guys back.
I think it's all it is.
And some teams are even worse off than we are right now. I mean, Miami, I think, is the worst team in the Eastern Conference right now?
And then how about Memphis? 0-5?
That's... Wow. I know Jaw's out, but Jesus, man, that's... All right, okay. Have you checked in on someone yet today? This is your reminder. A simple text, call, or message. You don't have to be a professional to check in. You just have to ask and listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Dial 988 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A message from Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the fairest deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Think Ferris. Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
Happy Sardiversary with Sarda rider Anthony. We're celebrating 25 years with our valued riders.
And I absolutely enjoy riding the buses. I get to know a few of the drivers, very respectful, very professional. Just an all-around about good experience. It helps people get to where they're going, disabled, veterans, or people going to work.
Thanks to all our riders as we celebrate Sarda 25 at Sarda.
You need to remodel your bath? You need JR Bath Company. Trust in the quality of JR Bath. It's fast, it's safe, and it's affordable. Call today at 1-800-664-2284 or go to jrbath.com. Speaking of which, that's a good segue into our final topic of the day. I had us prepare this whole thing last night because the NBA City Edition jerseys were released to the press, I think, yesterday or the day before. So we got a full... I mean, we had some leaks here in the last couple of weeks, and this whole thing now where it's like people release these leaks and immediately they have immediate judgment on them before they're even seen in like their pristine form, like when the photographers get to shoot glamour shots of them or when you get the players wearing them for the first time. If you're taking a picture of something where it's just on like a hanger, of course it's not going to look as good.
Right.
That being said, you have some thoughts about these City Edition uniforms this year, man. So take it away.
They suck. There's I'm looking at the photo right now of all the City Edition.
I will put up a picture here on the clip. Yeah,
Utah's, yes, I will give Utah a standing ovation because it is pretty similar to the uniforms they used to wear, but also not the same thing.
Right.
It's the purple with the mountain and the peak in the background.
Okay, before you go on to any of them, I kind of want to go through. I want to go through each of our lists. I don't know how many ones you ranked. How many did you do last night?
I can give you a top five.
Oh, give me five, and then we'll go over mine later. Yeah, go ahead.
Utah to me is number one.
Number one, okay.
When I'm looking at these, it was hard for me. I like something that resembles the team still. And so this one might be a hot take.
Okay.
I like Portland's a lot, Rip City, right? Instead of the sleeve jerseys, I have Portland in the top five. The Valley one in Phoenix to me is almost identical to what they already had. So I'm not a fan of that one. Heat culture. I did like that. I like how it's
I'm surprised they actually made that into a jersey. Yeah.
I do like I have the Lakers on here. I don't necessarily like how it's designed in the upwards, downwards, and then below the number, but it's different. It still says Los Angeles Lakers. It still stays true to their colors. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Dude, after 5, after 4, it was like, what teams don't I hate the most out of these? And like looking at them, still, I think it's a hard decision. I guess it's a tie, so I'm going to give you top 6.
Okay.
Denver and then Detroit. I do like Detroit's. I think Detroit's is different, but it still has that Detroit in the style of what it is. The style of the writing on the jersey is almost like the Detroit Tigers. in a sense
Huh.
on their jerseys. So I like that.
Yeah, a little bit.
But my goodness, dude, like the New York Knicks. Ooh, you did the New York with
okay.
two-tone. Like, I know
Okay.
you're probably going to like that one.
Okay.
I think it's, I
All
can't
right.
stand it. Nobody has one. To me, the worst one
What?
as I'm looking here,
All right.
San Antonio's.
Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna go over all of these on my list because I ranked all 30 of them, and we're gonna go through each of them. Number 30. This is the worst one I have. Ready? L.A. Clippers, dude.
Yeah,
that's a bad one.
That's a bad one.
It
That's a
says
bad one.
the one that I do like that it has like the dotting the I with the basketball, but it doesn't look like Clippers at all. It's not even. And here's the thing with me: if you're not going to do the similar design to your regular uniform, do something crazy, so crazy and different that it looks cool, and like you could see a team getting an identity from that. There's no reason this should be an identity for a team. It's a terrible shade of navy.
Yes,
it's the font is weird. I don't like it. Number 29, Chicago Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't hate this concept of like the old school like vertical script, and I like the font that they use, but it's so plain and the numbering is so off that it looks like like people complain about the Cavs uniforms being like a practice uniform. This looks like a practice uniform,
Yeah, 100%.
and not a good one at that. Number 28, Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, that's their.
See, I don't mind the design. The design's okay. I didn't know what the hell it was at first. I didn't know what team it was.
If you show that to somebody that doesn't know basketball, they're like, why is it 3 horizontal, 3 vertical, 3 horizontal lines?
And
Like,
people complain about like minimalist designs and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, okay, well, at least it looks clean and neat. This is not. I get what they're going for, but I don't like it. Number 27, Brooklyn Nets. For some reason, every Nets City Edition uniform feels like they just have to throw everything onto a jersey, like they're just splattering paint all over it. This one looks like it was made in the Nickelodeon headquarters. I mean, I don't mind the color scheme, but it's just not for me. Number 26, this is where we differ off. Denver Nuggets. I get what they're doing with the 5-280. I don't like that it's right in the middle and like just be above the belly button. And then the number right above it on the same size. Yeah, the colors aren't too bad, but it's just not. This is not an appealing jersey.
I'll agree with you there. I think they probably could have done the 5-280 in a different spot, maybe along the mountaintop in the background of the jersey.
Yeah, do it on the chest.
It does take away from the number on the front, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now the fact they're different colors, but in terms of just, I like the mountain range in the background.
Yeah, that looks fine.
Same thing with Utah. That's why I kind of like that. But that's a fair argument.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one.
Number 25, Toronto Raptors. I mean, it's like they're like, why even call yourself the Raptors at this point if you're not going to show a dinosaur?
Just call yourself the Toronto Drakes because that's all.
And they've been doing this gold for a while, and it never looks
Drake,
good.
OVO.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly. I have to imagine that's exactly what this is coming from.
24, LA Lakers. I do like the black, and I do like that script that they use, but if they just had the top one be a straight line instead of that dumb freaking triangle that they're trying to pull off, this would be a higher jersey. Alas, it is not. There's something about like putting the full name on the front of the jersey, like the Boston Celtics one from a few years ago. I like that a lot because it looked like their banners. Number 23, Miami. The reason I don't like care for it as much is because nothing in the NBA City Edition era is ever going to top Miami Vice.
Right.
Nothing. That was such. Like, I have a Dwayne Wade jersey in my closet for that reason.
I'm Tyler Hero.
Nice. Wait, which colors?
The pink and blue.
Oh, I have the white one with the stuff in there. But yeah, I mean that the pink and blue started when they started like blending the colors, and that's when I thought, okay, you're kind of taking it too far. But that's not here nor there. Heat culture's fine. I think the script is too small on the top. Yeah. Number 22, Golden State. They're trying to make it San Francisco because San Francisco basically. What is the term? What's the term for when a neighborhood becomes better when people start moving into it? Oh gosh. Oh. Like, okay, so basically San Francisco stole that team from Oakland.
Yeah.
Because they started winning championships. And now they're trying to like claim it. I know San Francisco had the Warriors at first, but I'm like, all right, whatever. And the design just isn't that great. The colors aren't great. Number 21, New Orleans. It's a basic NOLA black jersey. It's not like, it doesn't appeal to me at all. Number 20, and the colors are fine. I just don't like the design. Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't have great colors to begin with, but you know, the orange is blazing. It's cool. Number 19, I can't believe some people love this one. Philadelphia.
Yeah, no.
Like, I know what you're going for, and City of Brotherly Love's kind of cool, but I don't like that. It's again, it's like with the with the Clippers, that muted navy, I don't care for it. Number 18, Orlando Magic. Basic, boring Orlando with a navy, but that one looks a little bit better. 17, Washington. I do like the script of District of Columbia, and that could be a really cool thing.
Too small.
It's too small, and I don't love the colors that they use. I don't know. Maybe if you use like the red, white, and blue, maybe it could look a little bit better, but alas, that's not what they're doing. Number 16, Atlanta. It's fine. I like that undercase, lowercase font that they're doing, ATL. It's a different little thing. Number 15, Houston. Don't mind the design. Don't like the name.
H-Town.
H-Town. It's just kind of like, what are we doing here? What was like the Astros one. As much as we don't like the Astros, Space City. I did like those uniforms.
Yes, 100%.
Like if you could do that with it, maybe it could be something. But they're trying to do the Houston Cougars look as well too, like that old school one. 14, Phoenix Suns. Again, it's just not. It doesn't catch my eye, I think, as much as it wants me to. 13, Portland. I do like that it's in like a plaid. I think like the Rip City is in some sort of like plaid design. I thought I saw.
Yeah, it has. The lettering is in a certain pattern.
Yeah,
is what you would say. I can't remember what the name of the pattern is, but yes, that's another reason I liked it. And they have the little pattern going across the shoulders of the jersey as well, which I like.
Number 12, Indiana. I do like that spray paint look to it. I like that it kind of looks a little more creative. Number 11, Charlotte, and this one was higher than I thought it was going to be. The Buzz City ones. Don't love the name, but it's a clean, simple jersey.
It's clean. To me,
it looks like a normal Hornets jersey.
Yeah, to me, it's one of the cleaner jerseys out of all these.
And I think they utilize. I think they have gold in there, which I think they utilize pretty well. Number 10. I can't believe what you're doing. San Antonio, man. That's like old school Texas. You look at that design, it's like, oh yeah, it's Texas. We're at a rodeo. It's 1967. That's a great look, man. And Wembanyama is going to look amazing in that. I know it's not the classic black and silver Spurs, which is one of the best logos in the NBA, but
I don't like the red with the orange line through it. To me, that's also kind of resembling Houston a little bit. Don't, not a fan of it.
All right.
I also don't like their sponsor.
What was the sponsor?
Self. I don't even know what Self is.
I don't know what Self is.
I have now changed my opinion. The sponsors of the jerseys, I think it's getting a little outrageous. I don't.
Well, yeah, because some of them are insane. Like, doesn't the Cavs one is Goodyear, right?
No, Cleveland Cliffs.
Cleveland Cliffs, excuse me. Yeah.
There's a few teams on here, Mitch, that don't.
Doesn't Mr. Beast own a team sponsor, like something like that?
So looking on here, it looks like Atlanta, Indianapolis, the Clippers, Memphis.
What list is this? What is it?
Teams that don't have sponsors.
Teams that don't have sponsors,
at least on these, and Rip City. So I think it's 4. I just said 4.
Yeah,
4 or 5 teams that don't have any sponsors on the jersey, or at least that you cannot see in the graphic that you and I both use to rank these jerseys.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, some of these teams with the sponsors. Like now for OKC's, they have Love's the truck stop gas. It actually matches with the colors identical to the jersey. It's good. Cavs can get away with it, obviously, but. Yeah, some of these sponsors in these jerseys, it's just like, yo, that doesn't even make sense.
Number 9, Milwaukee.
They have something similar to this. I feel like
they do. I think that blue goes well with the green, and they have that like beige in there as well. It's fine. Number 8, Sacramento. I think this is what Chicago's trying to do.
Yes.
That old school look. It's like 1972. We're in Kansas City. They're trying to go back to like that Cincinnati Royals, Kansas City Kings era. That I like. Number 7. And I'm surprised it was as high as it was. Detroit. Like, I just think that Detroit looks pretty inviting for what they normally wear on a given night.
Yeah.
Number 6, again, another one I was surprised was this high. Dallas. Dallas with like that 90s look to it in black. I mean, I think Luka would look good in it. I mean, I think other players look good in it as well. It's a little bit different from that Mavericks design they've had for like what two plus decades now, which I don't mind. But
you're running yourself into trouble here with some of these jerseys you haven't picked yet.
Come on, man. Number 5, the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics never go far from what they usually.
Right.
Well, they had that one jersey last year in the playoffs where I'm like, why are you wearing this in the postseason? This is dumb. This is stupid.
I think the Celtics is good, but compared to the green you're used to, it's not the same. It's
a muted green, yeah.
Forest green, I think, is what you would say.
Yes.
So to me, it doesn't pop out as much, but I think it's because they have the gold on it, the gold outline of the lettering and everything. It's plain. The Celtics typically don't go away from what they have, so it's
a lot of gold.
Yeah, you're right.
This year, man. Number 3, Cavs, and I'm shocked that there was that video. Maybe it's because the video quality wasn't good, but when they revealed that uniform a couple weeks ago at that one event, and you heard that like muted response from the crowd, I'm like, this looks fine. But you spoiled it for me because you made the point that I was going to make, which is my only criticism of the jersey. It looks like a Christmas Day jersey. Yeah. It really, really does. And it looks like the jerseys we wore in that Christmas Day 2016 epic rematch against Golden State right after the finals. It does. I will give you that, no doubt. I like the gold trim around the thing. I like they will bring back the land. I know some people don't love that, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
I like the land.
I'm fine with it. It's got a little more style compared to our normal uniforms.
I will give them props. We didn't do anything associated with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I was going back and looking at the City Edition uniforms, and like some of them, I was fine with, like the blue and orange from like 2018.
Love those.
I like those. Yeah, I like they were kind of bringing back the 80s look. I could give or take the one, what was it, from 2 years ago, where it was like every font we used to type Cleveland, and I think one of them was like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inspired look.
Every letter in the jersey was a letter from a band in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I get that concept. It didn't look bad. I'm just kind of like, all right, guys.
It didn't look good though. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, it was just too like off. It was just too much going on.
And my unpopular opinion is I like those gray and yellow ones from a few years ago.
Oh, I love those.
Oh, good. Okay,
I have one. I have a Kevin Love one.
Very nice. Number 2. I can't believe we haven't talked about this one yet. Minnesota. What?
Just too plain.
No, they got that blending up top, man, with the blue and the white. That looks great.
I think you need to have more. The blending shouldn't be so high. I think the blending needs to be right where the number ends.
But I think the top of it being too much white would probably not be. I don't know. Maybe they have to expand the blending a little bit. But I love that minimalist Minnesota. That's a clean look right there. And the number 1 obviously is Utah. The fact that they're able to kind of simplify the mountain design from the 90s, bring back that purple. That is nice, man. Yeah. If there was any jersey that Donovan Mitchell never got to wear for the Jazz that he should have, that's one of them. That's a clean look.
Yeah, I think Utah is by far the best. By far,
I think they're the only ones that I'm seeing that are like it's kind of like with the Chargers redesign from years ago. Like you have nobody saying a bad thing about them. Like everybody loves them.
Yeah.
Everybody's great. Any City Edition uniforms from recent memory that you are like really particularly fond? I know we talked about the Cavs ones and the Miami Vice. Are there any ones where you're like, well, that was a great design?
Trying to think back because I used to be a giant jersey snob in terms of I always wanted to buy jerseys.
Go ahead, yeah.
Nothing's coming to mind as of right now.
Yeah.
There's probably one out there that I'm not thinking of, but it's just because they come out with new ones every year.
They do, and that's what I think has turned away some fans is that it's harder to come up with great designs. So therefore, when you have to come up with ones every year, there are some ones that are duds.
And you have the rule that teams can't change their jerseys for 4 years. So I think like with the Cavs uniforms that came out, was it last year or 2 years ago?
I think it was last year. Yeah.
So like those are the uniforms you're gonna have for 4 years.
Right.
It gets tricky, and maybe they need to do every 2 at minimum for the City Edition.
Maybe in that, and actually maybe make it like a contest for like fans to like bring in their own submissions, because as good as well-meaning as I think some of these designers that they bring in for like a number of teams bring in their own designers and like try to make it inspired by the city and the culture. They're just ones that I'm like, okay, you're trying something, but it just looks like a dud. Like more power to whoever did the Clippers one, but that's just a dud. I don't like the look of that one at all.
No,
as much as it's going to be fun to see 3 or 4 Hall of Fame players wear that uniform. It's going to be like, it's going to look like the Rockets in the 90s when they had Barkley, Pippen, and Olajuwon. It's like, oh, like this doesn't feel. I forgot one team, and we were going to argue about it. Number 4, behind the Cavs, but ahead of the Celtics, the New York Knickerbockers, dude. How do you not like that two-tone overlapping style, man. How do you not like that? In the black, the Knicks have been rocking the black. How do you not like that?
Because they beat my team in the playoffs.
All right, there you go. So thank you guys so much for listening or watching the Big Time Sports Podcast show. Said all this stuff at the top of the show. Mitch, what is the fact of the day today?
Well, we're going to go back to baseball, and I have to give credit to the person who sent me this fact, which would be the Mitch Spinell. So the Texas Rangers won the World Series this year.
Yes.
Fact?
Facts.
Fact. Okay, so they have one. The Rangers won all 3 games in Arizona. Fact?
Fact.
Okay. The Rangers went 11-0 on the road this year.
First team to ever do that.
You can make road an acronym for the teams they beat, which is kind of crazy. The Texas Rangers did not lose a single road playoff game this year, which is honestly extremely impressive and does kind of go to people's points of home field advantage doesn't matter. Road, R-O-A-D. Well, in the first round, the Rangers beat the Rays 2 games on the road. In the second round, they beat the Baltimore Orioles on the road. In the third round, they beat the Houston Astros on the road. And in the fourth round, they beat the Arizona Diamondbacks on the road. That spells, with the Rays, Orioles, Astros, and Diamondbacks, first letter in the name, road.
I knew the 4 teams made that acronym. I didn't realize that they did that in order. I just realized. You see my reaction there. I was like, oh my God, they actually did it. That is never going to happen again.
They did it in order. Like, it's crazy.
Is it possible to win every game at home against teams that can make an acronym for home?
Houston.
No. That's Astros.
No, I'm saying that, like, if you beat the teams at home,
right,
you're the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I know.
HOME. Oh.
But I'm talking about like team names.
No, there's nobody in the MLB that has an H, right?
Really? No. He's looking at his poster back
I have
there.
A baseball poster back here with all the team names on it.
Jays.
No, there's nobody.
Oh my God!
Nobody with an H. You'd have to go off
the Orioles, the Mets, and the. Is there anyone with an E? Eagles. God, Texas, you done something special, man. You did something that, first of all, you won the World Series for the first time in your franchise history, but you did something that's never going to happen again. Never going to happen again in the style that you did it. And big congratulations to World Series champion Austin Hedges. So congratulations to you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening or watching to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.